Welcome to another episode of Fight the Burnout. Today we have another, as usual, special guest. She is here in New Zealand, which is don't have a lot of New Zealanders actually on the podcast all the time. But we have Johnelle Hoskins, no relation to Mike. We clarified that before we started recording, but she helps women grow their self confidence and find themselves and prioritize and really. Get into their skin and become who they want to be. So I'm going to let her, as usual, introduce herself some more and tell us more about herself and her experiences with burnout because, yeah, it's a cool story. So, uh, Janelle, why don't you take it away?
Awesome. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. It is really awesome to be here. It feels like such a privilege to me. So excited to talk about burnout and all the other things that go along with that. So my name is Johnelle. I am the founder of Girls Get. We're an online community that is dedicated to helping women who are wanting to grow their self-confidence actually learn how to prioritize themselves, which means saying yes to themselves and their desires for once, so that they can create a life that they love, which is awesome. I've had a pretty wild journey up until this point, and no doubt we will get into that deeper within the podcast. Some of those things, just to name a few, have been being bullied as a teenager by my group of best friends, which then got published. So this was on social media. It then got published in national media all around New Zealand. So as a young teenager trying to navigate being bullied by your friends and then trying to answer adult questions about what you're going through. That was crazy. That was a time. And as well as that, I then went on to deciding I wanted to be a successful radio host. So there was a journey of about 6 or so years there within the New Zealand media industry that I pretty much started from the bottom and worked my way up. So good times and lots of opportunities for burnout for sure.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. Especially with the fact I love the fact that you can talk about it and and you're honest and true with it. That's it takes somebody to have done a lot of work on themselves to be able to actually open up about it. And yeah, I mean, I know it. I've been through it. I went from not wanting to talk, as we talked about before here, and as some listeners will know, from not wanting to really talk about anything and not trusting anyone to now running podcasts and literally telling everybody my life. So if you tell us about that specific, like, I know here, you told me before around, getting burned out with the radio hosting and that, but also being bullied as a kid. Tell us about that specific, like the specific, when I say when were you burned out, what's that specific time or experience that you have? Is there one, a specific
Yeah, for
one?
sure. Absolutely, there is. So burnout's one of these things that I don't think you know it's happening until it's too late. It's happened, you're crashing, you're burning, and you're like, what the heck just happened? That was a roller coaster. So it probably started when I was 19. I was living in Auckland at the time. I was pretty much the bottom of the ranks at my radio career, just having started. So at this point, I really knew what I wanted. I wanted to be a host on one of the radio shows. And I mean, in terms of radio in New Zealand and around the world, breakfast is key. If you can get on one of those 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. shows, you're killing it. So that was a dream for me as a 19-year-old. And what that meant is that I was working 7 days a week. I was doing the role that I had within the company. And then I was also putting my hand up for every single opportunity possible, the most random stuff. I just wanted to get in front of the people who made the decisions. And I realized really early on that that's what you have to do if you want to get noticed. So from there, I got to the point where, like I said, I was working my job within the company and I was also picking up every shift available on air. So I would start work at 5 a.m. in the morning. I had a split shift job at this time. So I'd start work at 5 a.m., finish at 9 a.m. I'd quickly run over to the edge and then I would cover for Megan from the day on the day show from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. anytime she was sick or anytime she went on holiday. And then I would go back to my other job and I would start at, I think I actually started at 2:45, so there's a little overlap. And then I would go until 7 o'clock at night. And I did that for months and months on end. Plus I was working weekend shifts as well. And I had the crazy idea with one of my friends that we should start a wellness blog, because working 7 days a week is very inspiring for wellness, because you have to learn how to sleep. You have to be efficient. You have to eat well. You have to fuel yourself in all of these ways that can allow you to work these ridiculous hours, especially, if you've got a dream or this big thing that you're trying to achieve. So at the time, being a 19-year-old, it didn't feel like burnout. It felt piss easy, to be honest. I was like flying high, loving it. But then out of nowhere, I found myself crying to my boss, like the big boss at the time of the company. And I was crying and crying and crying. And I just said to him, I hate this. I absolutely hate this. It was like I worked so hard in such a short amount of time that I'd completely lost my passion for it and my desire. So he was really good, and he told me to stick in there. He said, look, I know you've been working really hard. I actually have an opportunity coming up that I think you would be really good for. So I trusted him and I held out, and he stuck true to his word. About 3 weeks later, so pretty quickly, he came to me and he said, look, we've got a new position. It's just opened up down in Palmerston North, and it's on a breakfast show. So he didn't give it to me though. That would have been too easy. I had to fly down to Palmerston North, and I just spent a whole day with the team down there doing interviews, being grilled by the CEO, the head down there. They made me do the randomest stuff. I had to go out into the community and I had to interview 20 people, asking them these ridiculous questions. It was just nonstop all day long. And thankfully I got the position, which then meant that I had to move my whole life from Auckland to Palmerston North. And this happened 1 month before my 21st birthday. So when you go from having this life that, your friends are there, you've worked really hard for it, it's comfortable, yes, it's stressful and it's full on, but it's safe, I suppose. And then you move to a city where you've never been before, you don't know anybody, you're all alone. That is when I was just like, that, I guess that's when the burnout really started to hit me. It was kind of the flow on from working my ass off for this long, finally achieving the goal, but not being able to rest. I don't know if you would be similar, and like, okay, you've achieved this dream that you've had for so long, but you can't stop there because that doesn't actually feel fulfilling. You're like, okay, well, I've got this thing, this doesn't feel how I thought it would feel, so I guess I need to keep going. So I did that, and it actually wasn't until I went to an event one night, because being in radio, your whole life becomes content. You have to literally do things to then have stuff to talk about for your job, right? So I went to this wellness event, and I was at this point of my life where I was trying to learn about myself, I suppose. And so when the event host said, raise your hands if you want to come up on stage and diagnose your health issues, I was like, yeah, me. And I didn't think I had any issues.
We never do we? We never do.
No. So I went up there and I stood on stage, and he walks past me and I walks back and forth, and he looks me up and down, and he's got this microphone, and he says, you have a hormonal imbalance. And he said, you can see by the shape of, he goes, I'm very sorry to say this, but you can see by the shape of your thighs and your behind that there's something going wrong with your hormones. And I was just fascinated by this, not embarrassed, even though I should have been with the hundreds of people who then just had to look at my bum. But anyway, I was so fascinated that I then took the opportunity to get this guy on the show the next day and to talk through it a bit more. And what ended up happening is he owns a health and wellness company in Hawke's Bay, and I ended up working with him as a client. That is where he told me, you are an extremely high functioning person with adrenal fatigue. He goes, you should be in hospital. He said, if I took everything you do, lifted it off you and put it on another person, they would be in hospital. The fact that you think you're fine is mental. And I was surprised, but when it just feels like actually that makes sense. You know, I don't quite understand yet, because I've obviously got a lot to learn in this area, but it does make sense. So then I started going through the process of trying to work through that burnout and adrenal fatigue, which was just the weirdest experience after having worked my butt off and essentially not stopping for the past 2, maybe 3 years.
Yep. Yep. Wow. Yeah. That and you know it's fun. It's funny. You know, you look at it and you had somebody go, Janelle, you got something wrong.
Yeah.
And it was such a powerful person that you respected, that you went, oh, maybe I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's awesome that you were able to identify that, and we'll go into kind of what you did and that in a second. But I want to bring attention to that you were open enough and conscious enough to go, hey, wait a second, maybe there is something going on. Maybe I do need to step back if I want to do this for a long period of time, I take it. And so, you know, and I can fully relate to the, you know, doing so much. I mean, I used to, VIP protection, we do 18-hour days, get 4 hours of sleep, be back at work, and do that 7 days in a row. You know, it was uncommon for they try and make it so you had just got that 9 hours, so they didn't have to pay, they didn't have to, you know, do overtime, like overtime leave type stuff. But yeah, but you know, you'd push and you'd push and you push and you come off the back of it. My wife's an event manager, and she used to do, I remember she took people to Japan for the Rugby World Cup. Wow. Same thing. She was like, I was hallucinating. I had such little sleep. She came back and slept for like 2 days straight almost. But it's adrenal, it's that fatigue, and it is burning out. And if you continuously do it, and at 19, the thing is that you feel bulletproof, and that you also do have those, you bounce back a lot faster. And as you get older, you don't bounce back as fast. So what is it what'd you learn from this guy, or from yourself, from this and moving forward? Did you stay, how much longer did you stay doing breakfast and keep doing that kind of high octane career?
Wow. Okay. So many things to unpack there, I feel. I ended up working, so it's Ben Warren from the company Be Pure, an amazing
yes,
company. I literally take his vitamin D supplement every single day now. So I worked with him, and that process of releasing, or I guess rebalancing out my hormones in my body, because I was constantly in fight or flight mode. My body was constantly freaking out, which is not good for us, but it just felt normal. And so they had me on all these different sorts of herbs and random tonics. And I remember every single day, as soon as I woke up, I had to have this tea with these disgusting leaves in it. And it was the grossest thing ever. And I was like, how the heck am I paying $500 a month for this stuff? Like, what is wrong with me? But I think the thing is, I have, ever since I was 17, 18, I've always been interested and passionate about the idea of living the best life that I can and being the best person that I can. So I think from quite a young age, I was into personal growth. So I knew, you know what, this tea tastes disgusting. These supplements suck. And the fact that I'm not allowed to go to the gym anymore, and that I have to stay and I have to work and then I have to come home for 6 weeks straight, this is weird. And you know, it's not normal to me, but if I want to grow and if I want to come out better on the other side, then I'm going to do it. So I went through that process, and what's crazy is for years, while I've been working my butt off and then trying to go to the gym and still live this health life as well, I was never able to feel like I made any progress in the likes of the gym or anything to do with that. And then out of nowhere, literally just 6 weeks of nothing. I lost 5 kgs. You know, I've never been a person that cares about weight, and I don't put any weight on that. But it was just mind blowing to me to be like, I've done nothing. And this, it's just shifted. Like, it just released so much from my body. So that was another personal growth journey on its own. And actually, I think part of that helped me to see, you know what, this career that I've worked so hard for, it's actually not in alignment with me as a person. And that was crazy, because when we have this idea or this dream in our heads, we actually can tie our identity to it. And so my identity was so intertwined with being this famous radio star that when I started having these thoughts pop in my head of unhappiness and unfulfillment, I was like, well, that's not right. And that's what the heck else am I going to do? So there started to be this misalignment with me. And that's what led me on the path to deciding to leave radio.
Wow. That's awesome. All at the age of.
So I ended up leaving. There's kind of story along with this as well. I realized that I wasn't happy, I wasn't feeling fulfilled, and I needed to do something about it. But I had to release my identity to it because that's who you are. You know, you probably felt the same in police. Like, you were a policeman. And if you're not a policeman, then who the heck are you?
Yep.
Right? And no one else can tell you that. You've got to find it yourself. So I gave myself 12 months because I'm a planner. Gave myself 12 months. And I was like, Johnelle, you're going to figure your shit out. You're going to try as many things as you can. And by the end of the year, you are leaving radio. And there's this really weird constraint, I suppose, within radio that you're only allowed to take annual leave at certain times of the year, because if you miss a show, the whole world will end, and it's horrific. So my confinement was you're allowed 1 week off in the middle of the year, and then you're allowed your 2.5 weeks or whatever off at Christmas time. And so what I did is I went into the travel STA in Palmerston North Mall, and I said, I've got $10,000. I want to go away for a month, and here's when I want to do it. So I specifically booked 1 month away at a time when my work would fire me. So I knew that I either had to find another job or I was going to be fired because I was taking a holiday when I wasn't allowed to. But that's just what you have to do. You know,
It is. You have to, you know, and I think this is the biggest thing. And I'd love to talk to you more about how you were able to come to that I have to do this.
Yeah.
Because there are so many people out there. You know, we talked about before we started recording my journey of I literally got so burned out that I almost, well, we didn't talk about this, but I almost cheated on my wife. That's how I knew that I was just not right. And so then I ended up, then this is the second time while I was in the police that this kind of, I felt this way, but this was the hardest, the more intense time. And I went to a point where I was talking to the counselor, and she was like, you need to take a break. And it got past the demons of you just don't like cops and that, which was the demons in my head around, you know, the identity side of things.
Yes.
And then next thing it was like, no, I'm going. I'm done. I'm over being the way that I am.
Yeah.
I'm just, no more. I'm over this because I don't like who I am. What was it that for you that was like that made it so that you were like, nah, I'm going to go take this 10 grand. I'm going to go book it and make it happen. Can you identify it at all?
Yeah, so many things. So you can see this tattoo on my arm.
Yep.
This one here. That was a radio stunt. That was my first ever tattoo. And so we were a 3-person show, myself and 2 males who were, one was in his early 30s, the other one was in his mid 50s. They felt like family to me. We were so close. I loved them so much. And we were up for a radio award. And I set this bet with the guys. I said, if we win the radio award, we have to get matching tattoos. And I, at this point, had no tattoos. And these guys weren't actually into tattoos. And so they were very on the fence. And it was just funny radio banter. But we were dead serious. If we win the radio award, we are going to get matching tattoos. We didn't end up winning. But what happened somehow is the decision was made that I would still get a tattoo. And I remember the point where I sat down with my boss and I said to him, you do realize that this tattoo is on my body for life. This isn't just a game. This isn't just entertainment. It's not just for fun. This is actually ingrained on my skin. And it was just so mind-blowing to me that he still just thought of it as content. He didn't actually realize or even care. And so that was one scenario. Another scenario is I went through a breakup, and it was suggested or encouraged that I record the breakup and that we play it back on air the next day. There was just so much stuff that wasn't right. And honestly, the stuff we talked about every day, I guess the more the deeper I got into my own personal growth journey, the more I felt like a different person when I went to work every day, because the stuff that I could talk about wasn't actually the stuff I cared about. I had to talk about Kim Kardashian. I had to talk about just the stuff that means nothing, and I just hate it. And I've realized since then and decided since then that I hate shit chat. And I don't want shit chat with anyone. Like, we're going to talk deep stuff. We're going to talk your biggest fears, the things that hold you back, the things that keep you up at night, because that's the shit that means something. I don't want to care what celebrities are up to all the time, unless it's, actually helping people or helping to make people better. So I was feeling like I was two different people all the time. And that is what got me to the point of giving myself 1 year. So I gave myself a year. I wrote this whole big list of all of these things that I would do, because I didn't know the answer. I didn't know what I would do instead. I just knew I didn't want this. So I wrote this big list of all of these things I was going to try. And that was my tip to anybody listening. If you are in a position where you don't know what you want, you don't know where you're going or what your next move is, try shit. Get curious and ask yourself, like, what would excite me? What would I enjoy waking up and doing? Or what would I look forward to? And instead of dampening that answer that you get, or instead of telling yourself, oh no, I can't do that, write it down and try to make it happen. So what I did is I was terribly afraid of heights. I had so many fears at this time in my life, and I ended up manifesting, I suppose, to do a skydive by myself. My partner at the time didn't even come with me. I pretty much went by myself to go to the skydive. Like, it wasn't a life event that everyone comes and cheers you on, like what you normally expect from a skydive. People come with you and it's this cool thing. I did it by myself. And I then signed up to do a comedy set with 7 days notice, just to try and see, is this something that I might be good at, or I might be excited by? And anyway, I spent the whole year just going to events, exploring myself, trying new things, meeting new people before that year was up. And I ended up signing a contract with a new company at the end of October that year. And I had my last day on Christmas Eve. I think it was in 2017. So I did 6 years of radio.
That's amazing.
I was 23. I was 23 when I left.
Yeah. That's awesome. So literally it's just try different things.
Yeah.
What'd you end up signing a contract to go do?
So I have realized throughout this time, my own personal growth journey, and through my work in media, that I love business. And business excites me. And I think it excites me because of the windows and the doors that it opens up for people, whether you're the business owner or whether you're the person who has to work a job at a business to put food on your table. So I ended up signing a contract with a company in Palmerston North that helps people who have ideas to turn those ideas, or to validate those ideas. And if they get validated successfully, then we would help turn those ideas into businesses. And there's different arms within that business that, my job specifically, I was helping teenagers learn about business. And then I helped university students as well, which I just loved, because, young people, I like to think they have less fear. It hasn't been, the societal pressures or the self-doubts haven't been ingrained in them yet. So if you can support them and nurture them when they're young enough and they have this sick idea one day, it could change the whole world. And I ended up working with that company for 2 years. So business, I love business.
Awesome. No, I love that. There are a few things that kind of popped up for me during this. Is, I guess you kind of answered them, but it's that what we're obviously, try different things. And I've interviewed quite a lot of people, but one of the things that I've realized as well is those things that you're trying. Another easy way to think back, and I'd love to know if this kind of did tie into what you were doing, is take it back to your childhood. Go back to when you're a kid and think about the things that you enjoyed, and think about, okay, cool, as an adult, how can I put those things that I enjoyed as a kid on steroids?
Totally. Part of what we do within Girls Get, I run this workshop called Girls Get Confident, and I do it in random different cities around New Zealand and also online. Part of that workshop is asking people to write down and spend some time thinking, what are those things that you did as a child? And then we get you to reflect and see, how much of that do you actually currently still do. So we had one woman who talked about, as a kid, she would just love sitting in her room listening to albums. And she would just listen to them on repeat and repeat. And I said to her, well, you know, what role does music play in your life now? And she said, none. I never listen to music. I might listen to a song on the radio, but other than that, never. And after that workshop, she ended up messaging me, and she said that she is now back in love with listening to music while she's cooking dinner for her family. And it just brings more happiness to her day. And she's listening to these albums that she still loved as a kid. And I'm just like, it is mind blowing that us as adults forget. You know, it's almost like we think we are a completely different person to who we were when we were children. Yes, we've grown and we've learned, but those things that made us happy then still make us happy now, you know?
Yeah, definitely spot on there. It's so true. We are just an older version of ourselves as kids. I constantly tell my wife, I'm a big kid that has more money now. I don't have to ask permission. Like, my wife hates me going to the grocery store because I walk in there to buy like some oil or something, and I come out with like $40 worth of just crap.
I did that today. I went in to buy some chicken breasts to go with dinner, and I came out with 2 different types of chicken, and as well as that, I came out with hemp seeds, cacao, and a few other random things as well. I was like, I should not be allowed in the supermarket because they're all
and my wife hardly ever does, but if she wants me to get, like, because I've got a sweet tooth, so I love chocolate. There's certain things that I absolutely love, and I'll go in there and I'll be like, I can afford that. No, don't in the basket.
I have money.
And guess what? It makes me happy, and so that's the thing. That's really what matters. But I wanted to jump back to, obviously, you know, I know that there's people coming up, and you'll probably know them personally, that are coming up into radio and that. But it's also, you know, you talked about radio, but you hit some chords within myself around. It's the same thing in policing. Or it's the same thing in any industry when you're first getting into it. You feel like you have to give everything and all of you, or you'll never succeed. And yes, there is a point where you do need to give above others, but I feel like there is ways that you can be more productive with it. So if you're going to talk to somebody because you know them, if you're going to talk to somebody that was, say, 17, 18, wanting to get into radio, wanting to get into that industry, besides don't do it, what would be your like top 3 things to them that you would say, you know, so that they don't get to the state where you got to?
Yeah, funny you say that, because I actually do this already. I'm still well acquainted with the school that I went to in Tauranga to study radio, and every year I always go and talk to the students. And obviously over the years, what's amazing is my tutor still lets me back even though I'm not in radio anymore, but I feel like, not my script, but the key points that I say to that person or to those people are, one, and this is relatable to anyone, have a good handshake. People undervalue the power of a good handshake. And I guess in COVID times, it's quite hard, but, you know, I mean, I still shake people's hands and they don't run away from me, so, you know, do it. But I've told that to students, and then I've come back and I've said to them, you know, what did I say to you last time? And they say to me, have a good handshake. And I say, who's been complimented for their handshake since I was last here? And, you know, some of the students raise their hands, and it's just so cool because you remember a good handshake. It sounds really lame and weird. You know, I feel weird even saying it, but it has helped me make connections and have people continue to remember me just from a handshake. And I guess that's because that's your first impression. So the handshake. The next thing is and this is also relevant in any aspect of life, I think, it is to get work experience. And this can go back to what I said before about trying things. If you think you might be interested in something, or if you really want to have a radio career, go and try it. So before I signed up to my radio course, which was going to cost me $5,000 as a 17-year-old that I had to cover myself, it felt like a big deal. I went and took a day off school at high school, and I sat in on the radio class for a day. So that was me trying it to see if this is actually what I want to do. From there, when I was studying radio, I got in front of the people who worked for the 2 radio companies in New Zealand. We've got MediaWorks and NZME. MediaWorks is the edge. it's My FM, it's More FM, it's The Rock. It is, for me, the brands that I loved. NZME is ZM, Flavor. Honestly, I can't even tell you the rest because that's how much I don't care. Like, I still love the MediaWorks brands. And so I decided, cool, I want to work on MediaWorks. I'm going to go and annoy all of those people, and I'm going to offer my services to them for free, and they're going to know who I am. So I have a good handshake. I've now somehow managed to get all of their email addresses. And every month I'm emailing them saying, hey, is there anything I can do? Do you have any work available? Has anyone called in sick and you need a fill in? I'm here, I'm available, consistently following up. And one day they actually gave me the call up and said, hey, do you want to come to a barbecue with us tomorrow? So it works, and I think that's in any situation. Test it out for yourself, but also test it out so that people can figure out what you are like and if they actually like you. What's the third thing? I guess the third thing is probably, this one. Don't take no for an answer. when you know what you really want, and this is something that I think is important as well. You can change your mind at any moment in time. If you decide something that's been your dream is no longer your dream, just like me, I loved radio. That's all I wanted to do. And then all of a sudden, I didn't want to do that anymore. You have to give yourself permission to change your mind at any time. And I say this to my partner all the time, that I'm going to change my mind. And, he'll make jokes being like, that's not what you said the other day. And I said, I don't care. I don't give a shit.
I just changed my mind.
I just changed my mind, and that is my right to do so. So you don't take no for an answer, but also, when I say don't take no for an answer, what I mean by that is don't let anybody tell you what you are or what you aren't good enough for. So when I was first trying to make it in radio, I tested out TV as well. And the head of a local TV station told my 17-year-old self he doesn't think I'm a good fit for TV. And I sent him a really big explanation as to why I disagree. He replied, and he still disagreed with me, but he gave me an opportunity to come in and meet him personally and try and, I guess, share my case as to why I would be good. I ended up voluntarily working on his TV station for 3 months, and then he hired me and paid me for 6 months. So I did not take no for an answer. You cannot take no for an answer when you know what you want. Obviously, respectfully, you just get really creative at telling people what you want, but in a way that they get what they need out of it,
Yeah, always thinking about their needs as well. On that as well, I want to, I feel those are really good ways to get into things. But obviously you pushed and you can identify now that maybe you pushed too much on yourself, doing 7 days a week, 12, 13, for however many years. What would be your advice to yourself, I guess, so that you maybe didn't, I know we have to go through these experiences to get to where we are now, but also what would be some like key things that you'd say to somebody so that they don't burn themselves out, so that they, have that longevity if it is something that they want to do for the rest of their life, or, they say that's what they want?
It would probably be knowing your self-worth, knowing what you want enough to go for it, but then understanding your value and what you will and won't do in order to get there. And one of those things you won't do is put your health at risk. And part of that can just be by having good people around you. If I hadn't have met Ben, who would have said this random health comment to me, which is probably a sales pitch because he's a business person and, he wants clients, but it was real. I actually needed someone to be like, hey, mate, you're actually doing way too much and you should chill out. So having good people around me, and at any stage in life, intentionally trying to cultivate relationships with people who genuinely care about you and who will call you out if they see you're going too far, or, if they see things changing in you. And I think that's the thing, right? Like people close to you can see things before you can because they're not in it. So they don't have that bias of they're like, oh, it's worth it, or it'll be worth it in the end. They can actually just tell you. I remember once I was in a relationship And I wanted so badly for this relationship to work because I didn't want to be a failure. Just like we get ourselves into positions of burnout because we don't want to be a failure. And I'd been trying so hard and felt like I was just giving it my all. And one day, one of my friends said to me, Johnelle, he just doesn't see you. And that's all she had to say. And that planted the seed in my head of like, actually, I am worth more than this. I don't have to give without getting anything back in return. I am enough, I'm valued and worthy enough on my own. And if I hadn't have had her close to me, I don't know where I would have gotten to. I probably would have tried so hard in that just like career and everything and ended up getting burnt out again. So such a long answer to your question, but I hope I answered
it. You did. Definitely. It's know what you're worth, and and don't. It comes down to that whole thing of being able to say yes to what you want, and fighting for what you want. Fight for yourself too, and that leads me into where I'm hugely passionate is about helping people with a true why. Identifying that true internal why. And I talk to so many people, and I don't know if you're familiar with like Simon Sinek and that. Yep, he's very, very good. And I read his book after I started down this journey, and I went, wow, that's really close, but I feel it all goes deeper. And my belief is that everybody actually has a true why that doesn't change. It is actually implemented and seeded when they're a kid.
Wow.
And so it's implemented when you're a toddler, and then concreted in as a teenager. And then you follow it along. My why, and this comes into that whole thing of being able to put boundaries on yourself, because if you know your true why, then you can go, okay, what's serving me, what isn't, and is it serving others as well in the same way? Because your why has to do with you, others, and then it creates something. My why is I want to create less pain for myself and others, so that they can become the best version of themselves.
Right.
It's
really cool. I feel like mine is really similar to that. You got me thinking about the connection between a child and a teenager, because I feel like I know my why now as an adult, but I haven't consciously gone through the exercise of tying that to being a teenager and then being a child. I wonder if I could do that now. Who knows? So if I'm looking at patterns, I feel my why is to help people remove suffering from themselves. And I feel like a lot of that we put on ourselves. We take society's view, we take negative things we've been told as a child and as a teenager, and we put them on ourselves as if they're true. And that then leads us to taking the safe path all the time. And I've always said, and I say this a lot in Girls Get, is that if you don't consciously decide your life, you'll wake up in 10 years and you'll think, how the heck did I get here? And why am I here? I don't want this life and I'm not happy. So for me, my why is to help people to realize this as soon as possible and to change it. To empower them to feel confident and supported enough and valued enough within themselves to actually say, you know what? No, I don't need to keep doing what you want me to do. I'm going to go and forge my own path now because I deserve that for myself. So if I connect that back to me being a teenager, I had massive resistance between my mother and I. We did not get on at all, and we had so many arguments, and I always felt like I was trying to be who I wanted to be, but then I was being told by her and obviously other people as well, you can't do that, and you need to do this and you need to do that. So now my life as an adult, when I've finally been able to tear away from that, I'm really passionate about helping others to do the same. And obviously that can look like so many different things, whether they're still holding on to childhood trauma, bad relationships, terrible managers in their workplace, so many different things. But it's just like actually teaching you the steps of how to overcome that and getting you to a position where you can say, I'm out, I'm gonna start living for me now.
And when did it start? When you're a kid?
Oh, man, when I was a kid.
Taking you deep.
Yeah, no, this is really good. So I did some, as I say, I love personal growth. And for me, Girls Get is helping women with their own personal growth journey. So you have to practice what you preach, right? And I was having this coaching call last year. And I just said to her, I was like, I feel like I'm running out of time. I'm just running out of time. And this was when I was 26 years old. Okay. So I'm 26 and I'm pretty sure I was crying and I was just really overwhelmed. But it's because I've got such a big vision. You know, I want to help so many people and that takes time. And so I had this thing nagging at me every single day of, Johnelle, you're running out of time. You're running out of time. And she said to me, how old were you when you started doing chores around your house? And I said, oh, I don't know, probably 8 or something. And then she goes, no, seriously, think about it. How old were you when you started doing chores around the house? And I distinctively remember being probably, I'm 2 years older than my little sister. So I would have been 7, helping my sister or making my lunch, making my sister's school lunch for her and making my own. And that's essentially a chore, you know? Well, as a kid, it's a chore. And I remember teaching my little sister the alphabet and how to count to 10 and just all of these things. And I told this to this coach and she goes, so essentially you've been an adult since you were 7, or you've been doing adult things since you were 7. So now that you're 27, you feel like you're running out of time because your body's 27, but your mind's 47, you know, and just this crazy concept just blew my mind, whether that's true or not. It felt true enough for me in that moment that since we debunked that, I shit you not, I've not been scared that I'm running out of time at all. It's been over a year now, and I do not have those freakouts that I'm running out of time, ever.
So with that in mind, when was the first time that you felt like you were suffering?
When I was 13 years old, being bullied by my best friends.
Before that, probably pre-7.
Oh, probably being told off, but like, you know, I think.
So this is the important. This is what I've recognized, and have a think about it. Well, I'm happy to work with you on it and do a coaching session on it. But this is the impact. This is the difference that it makes. Is right now your why, you know it, it's there, but it's not emotionally attached yet. And when you recognize, and this goes for everybody that's listening, when you recognize where it actually stems from, the moment, because before that moment, you never felt like you suffered. Because your why has everything to do with you, and then you project it onto others. You give it to others.
Yes.
So that's why mine is to create less pain for myself, because you got to do it for yourself first,
Of
and
course.
then others.
Yes.
And so yours, if I'm putting into my words real quickly, because we don't have a ton of time, otherwise I'd normally do it in your own, but to remove suffering for yourself and others, and it might go deeper than this, but I'm just using what we have here and with the time that we have, remove suffering for yourself and others to do something. And so it's actually identifying that initial sparking moment, that first seed when it was planted, when you first felt suffering or whatever is deeper than that.
Wow.
Then takes you, and you start to, you don't have to struggle so much to live by it. You just are it, because you realize, holy cow, my whole life has been about this. The bullying, you saw yourself bullying. I bet you were also, you didn't like the fact that you were bullied because you were suffering, and also you would do everything in your power to help others not be bullied because they were suffering.
Absolutely.
And then radio, when you're on the radio, you're making to every listener, you're helping them not suffer by doing it. Then, so there's so much passion behind it.
And that's what I loved about the dream of radio, was that you get to be the first person in the morning that people listen to before their day starts, before they go to that job that they hate, before they get burdened down with all the chores that they have to do and just the typical life stuff. You're actually that spark in their day in the morning.
Yeah, you're creating less suffering. But as soon as you started to suffer more than what you felt you could actually overcome, all of a sudden it's like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's actually creating a balance, because you can apply it to whatever you're doing. Some things bring more passion to you because of it actually applies. But once you know that initial starting moment, you go, holy cow, this is where it all stems from. You can even get more aligned with it. So this is the work that I do with people, is take them through that and then figure out that what, or apply it to the what, or shift the thinking around it. And I really prevent that burning out, because now you're driving from not a surface thing or an external thing. You're driving from an internal thing.
Mhm.
And we know, as you've said as
Yes.
well, when you're driving from you inside, holy cow, anything is possible.
It's like this burning, and I've used this concept for years. It's this burning desire that's inside your
Mm.
stomach. I believe we all have it. You know it, I know it within ourselves, and it's us all working together to help everybody else realize what that is for themselves. And I wholeheartedly believe we all know it, and it's not so subconscious. It's close to the surface. We've just got to have a little bit of help. So like, you help people, I help people to bring that out in them so that they can live better. And I love that you've just done that with me, because it just makes me see that, you know every single person in whatever the context can help other people. And
Yeah.
considering what we're going on in the world, what's happening in the world right now, we need it. We need all the help we can get.
Yes, we definitely do. And my belief and my from the research that I've done in that is that why makes it so that you drive, you go for it. And you're okay to step away from things because now all of a sudden you go, this doesn't line up with the values of my why or where it comes from. And so, hey, what's the next opportunity? And you're not so constrained by all the external stuff because you're like, I'm driving from inside. And that leads us into what you do, because I know you're helping build confidence, and I believe my thing can help that. What you're doing is helping it as well. It can help even my people, and everybody listening. And it's amazing because we all do things in different ways, and we all learn different things and apply different things, and I love it. I get excited about it, as you can tell. And so what is it that your now current program? I know you help women build that confidence in that, but why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. So the reason why I specifically help women is because I actually really wanted to work with men. But being in my young 20s at the time that I was going for my coaching training, and I just had this desire, probably because I worked with two men, in such a close proximity, early mid 30s and then mid 50s. I got to hear every aspect of their life. So I'm actually really passionate about helping all people. But I was really interested in helping males. And I remember a mentor kind of said to me, that's probably not appropriate. Their wives probably won't be very happy if they're going to like a young 20 something to get life advice.
I
You
call
probably...
bullshit. I call bullshit. But yeah, go for
but,
it.
but that
I
was
can see it. I can see it. Yeah.
that was what was encouraged to me at the time. So I thought, what, actually, that's fair, I suppose. And I thought, who can help men? Women. So by helping women, if we help women to be better and to free themselves from those constraints, then they will release the reins on their men, and they will start to empower their men to live their best life as well. And, it's like one person in the family is paying for the coaching or paying for the support, but the whole family's
Yes.
benefiting from it. So what we do with Girls Get is we help women. We have an online membership community. So something that I've seen is massively missing is the aspect of community and people who are on the same journey. So when it comes to personal growth, it is I don't know if this is just New Zealand or if you find this in the US as well, but when you start a personal growth journey, people kind of look down on you, and it's been called the tall poppy syndrome, and apparently it's really bad in New Zealand. I don't want to agree with that. I don't want to just say, oh yeah, it's tall poppy syndrome, or oh yeah, personal growth in New Zealand isn't very well supported. I call bullshit. Let's change that. So Girls Get, we have a community of women who are all on their own personal growth journey. Every single month we learn another lesson, a different distinction, so to speak. So we talk about learning about boundaries and how to implement them in your life. We talk about expectations and how to release expectations, because all expectations do is cause hurt and pain for those around you when they don't meet them, because they can't read your bloody mind. Along with that, we've done stuff on body image and self-love. Just every single month is a new lesson, and we together as a community go through the lesson, do the learnings, and we grow together. So we're creating a really tight-knit group of people, and my ladies go on trips together. Like a few months ago, before Auckland went into lockdown, some of our members got together for a weekend in Auckland, and they did all this amazing stuff, and they sent me these photos, and I was just like, I love this. This makes me so happy that these women have found each other through Girls Get United. So as a company, we're called Girls Get, and our program, the community membership, is called Girls Get United. So if you head to girlsgethq.com, you can see on the right, there's a membership button that will show you all about the membership. It will tell you some lessons we've had, give you an overview of what you can expect. And then we've also got a free lesson on the website as well. And that lesson is for anyone who wants to debunk some of the things that are currently holding you back. And then in that lesson, we also talk about how Girls Get United as a membership can help you to move through those things. So, we help women, we help men, we all help each other.
I love that. I love that because also, and I think you are right. It's a huge New Zealand thing around this self-development side of stuff. It's a tainted thing, and it's slowly getting better, especially with COVID. It's kind of forced it a bit because there's only so many counselors out there. And so I love what you're doing. And also the fact that you're doing it with women, it is so true. When you start to transition one thing, you either grow together or you grow apart. It's going to be one of the two. But also you can't change anybody else, but you can change yourself and show how you want it to be.
That's all you can do. You can't control others. You've got to be, I always say you have to be the example. If you want someone to be a good person, to be open, honest, and truthful, you have to be open, honest, and truthful. They're not going to be there if you're not a reflection of that for them.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. That is awesome. So girlsgethq.com, you said?
Correct. Yes.
Cool. Perfect. That's the one. Go have a look at it, ladies, guys, get your women into it. That's the one to go. Because, it's so funny. I've done so many different things. And, when women stand in their confidence, not in a masculine confidence, which we see so much. And my wife used to stand in a lot. And it's why when I was a cop, we'd butt heads because she was in a masculine state. I was in a masculine state. Come home and I can drop into my feminine side, so I just drop into that, and then I become unhappy, and then I go to work and we'd roar up, and so we'd have these things, and it was just on top of everything else. It was it was another kind of thing, and now we've recognized it on things, and by her doing courses like yours and programs like yours, and also just stuff alongside with me, she can actually sit in her femininity now. And so she can be that, and she's actually stronger. Women, I'm telling you this right now, you're stronger in your femininity. If you're a feminine woman, you're stronger in your femininity, and you'll get more shit done than trying to be a masculine person in this masculine-ish type corporate type worlds. If you bring that femininity, you can actually create more change and bring you to it.
Exactly. You yourself have value. You just have to learn to trust yourself, which I believe comes from growing that confidence. You grow confidence in yourself, you grow to trust yourself, and you can just show up as your best and you can get shit done.
Yep, that's the one. That's the one. Last question I have for you is, what's your top tip to self-happiness?
It starts within. No one outside of you, no external thing. Buying a house isn't going to make you happy. Having your dream job isn't going to make you happy. You have to be happy within you, and it starts inside. And I know it might sound cheesy and you might not know what that looks like. We've just been talking about it for the past hour. It's, you listen to these podcasts, you do this, you dip your toe into personal growth, but you don't actually go all in. You need to get to a point where you within yourself are happy, and everything just compounds from there.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So you heard it today. There's so much good stuff that we've talked about today. And, the key thing right there is, I think it's go full in, jump in. And if it doesn't work, jump into something else.
Exactly. And I mean, what's not going to work? The only thing that's not going to work is when you stay still and you're stagnant and you do nothing. If you try a new career and you don't love it, who cares? My mom has worked in healthcare for the past 3 years, and she's decided in the past month, actually, I am so unhappy right now. I need a change. And she's just changed to something completely random. She called me the other day and said, I've just got a job working for a company that sells medical supplies. I was like, what the heck? And she's so excited about it because she knows how unhappy she is here. She's got the balls to try something different. And if she doesn't love that, then she'll try something else. Who cares?
Yep, that's the one. That's the one. And so it's just going full out. And, don't try and overcomplicate it. Don't put it in the complicator. Just try it. If it doesn't work and you're unhappy and it doesn't end up lining up with your values and who you are, try something different.
For
But
sure.
I always say this at the end or at the start of these episodes is take one thing. Don't try and take everything out of this episode. It is here. It's here to stay. You can listen to it all the time. Just take one thing, whatever's popped into your head right now, and write it down. And just get good at that. And just practice that, practice that, practice that. And you will see change. You will see growth, and you will develop.
And you can message me at any time, girlsget_HQ on Instagram or on Facebook. Let me know what that one thing for you is, because I'd love to chat about it and see like how you get on by actually implementing that and trying to make that change in your life. That'd be awesome.
Yes, perfect. There you go. So another way to get in touch with Johnelle, and we'll put all that in the description down below anyways. But till next time, just keep one step in front of the other, and just keep moving, and let us know what you got out of this. Let us know how you enjoyed it, what you didn't like, what you did like, because we want to know all of it. And till next time, we do love you. My motto has always been train hard, test easy. That's physically and mentally, because if you're not training past your boundaries, you're never going to grow. And we do have to grow. Otherwise, we die. In
I
the
love
words
that.
of Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins' thing is, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so it's true. So till next time, thanks again for being on the show, Johnelle. And we will talk to you guys all soon. Until next time, keep giving it everything you have.